somebody left unspoken.
I still think people are coming in.
They're going to close the speakers.
Yes. And here comes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to the 11th annual celebration of the Sandra Day O'Connor Award. We have a memorable luncheon planned for you and appreciate your support for the Arizona Foundation for Women. I'm Sarah Suggs-Cheek, this year's co-chair, and I'd like to introduce my co-chair, Victoria Glimpsher. This luncheon, thank you. This luncheon is presented by the Arizona Foundation for Women so that women of national and local prominence can be recognized for their contributions to improving the lives of women and children. We are deeply honored to be joined by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, for whom this prestigious award is named, and to continue the legacy of honoring prominent women. What a fitting start for our Memorial Day weekend, isn't it?
We'd like to start by asking all of the AFW angels to please stand so that we can recognize and thank you for all you do to make our community a safer place for women and children. Please stand.
Our angels in white.
Your support and presence here today reach far more than we can begin to tell you. We are the voice of those who have been silenced by fear. We are the voice of those who must, by circumstances, remain silent. Marilyn Seaman founded the Arizona Foundation for Women with an incredible vision that many are now sharing. Recognizing the enormity of our unmet needs of women and children and the shortfall of dollars to address those issues. Marilyn acted with passion and decision and set the cornerstone for this organization. Without her efforts, we wouldn't be here today, and so many women and children would not have been helped. Thank you, Marilyn, for your courage and conviction. You are a testament that one person can truly make a difference in our community.
We are honored to have everyone with us this year to celebrate our recipients of this year's awards. Mona Lou Callery, Dr. Elizabeth Vliet, and especially Mrs. Laura Bush, who will later be interviewed by Mary Jo West. Many of you remember Mary Jo as being the first lady of TV news in Phoenix. She was the first female anchor more than 20 years ago in the Valley. She then pursued her dreams and worked in New York on the first Night Watch show at CBS. Mary Jo has earned Emmys, numerous awards, and today is her third interview of a First Lady. She's previously interviewed Rosalind Carter and Nancy Reagan. At this time, we'd like to introduce Marilyn Seaman to introduce this year's Marilyn R. Seaman Award recipient, Mona Lou Callery.
Thank you all for coming and sharing this vision, this dream, making it possible year after year for us to reach out and help women all over our wonderful state with this awful issue of violence. As honored as I was several years ago to have this group surprise me with an award named in my honor, it's a far greater honor for me to give this award to other people who help make our dream a reality. When I first met Mona Lou, we met ostensibly to discuss some of the women she was working with who might have interesting histories for a book I was working on. At the end of our meeting, Mona told me that she wanted to thank me, and I was, to say the least, I was sort of surprised because I didn't think we had ever met. Nor did I, at that time, know that she had been a victim like the women who she spent her life helping. But everything came full circle when she informed me that she was the first person helped by a very early program of the Arizona Foundation for Women, which was a program called Faces for the Future, in which doctors and dentists donated their time to reconstruct the faces and the teeth of women who had been battered so they could go back into a workforce. And the thanks that she said to me was that she had been our first recipient. Mona is a mother and a grandmother. She was a victim of life-threatening abuse. Both she and her children suffered for years. But instead of turning her hurt and suffering inward, Mona created an advocacy and training network to coordinate conferences and trainings at a state, national, even international level. And she single-handedly founded a program that's called SEEDS, which is a residential home, actually 2 homes, for sexually abused women with criminal justice histories, many of them in jail for having protected their own lives or their own children's lives. SEEDS creates a physically and psychologically safe environment to empower women to rebuild their lives, re-enter the workforce, and to participate in civic life. And its name stands for its core values, the values that underline the program and the mission: support, education, empowerment, and direction. Mona Lou's life as a victim was the embodiment of everything that each of us has worked so hard to prevent and to heal. It's what keeps us coming back to AFW day in and day out, and what keeps you here helping us make this real. Her triumph exemplifies an impressive combination of self-education, passion, dedication, and focus. Her resume lists more than 20 media presentations where she's been a national resource on helping to heal the scars of battered women. However, none of this tells her story like a visit to the SEEDS house. And by the gracious donations of many of you in the room, the women from SEEDS are here with us today. I thank you all for making that possible. In all my years of working to combat violence against women, I have never seen someone so relentless, doing so much for so many, with almost no resources except her own. Rarely will you find leadership like that exhibited by Mona Lou Callery, a victim for whom life's meaning comes from preventing or healing others who have suffered as she did. It is more than my pleasure and my honor to present to you Mona Lou Callery.
The SEEDS program was founded by Mona Lou, and it is a domestic violence shelter for women who have been sexually abused, who've had drug and alcohol problems, and who have come out of the corrections system.
Mona Lou is the SEEDS program. Mona Lou founded the SEEDS program. Mona Lou is an exceptional example of everything AFW is working so hard to support.
I think that the SEEDS program has had a great impact on the community in that it has brought additional awareness to this issue. There are women out there who are coming out of the corrections system who really have nowhere to go. They come out with absolutely nothing. And this place that's been established for them is really helping them to get their lives back together, mentoring each other, staying clean and sober, and looking for work and getting on the right path. Everybody needs a second chance.
I sent out numerous postcards when I was incarcerated for recovery homes, halfway houses, and Mona Lou sent me her package. And I was so determined to get in there because of what it offered and the things that were available to me. And so I had to, and my probation officer had to approve it. Well, she approved it, and they didn't let me out when I was supposed to get out. And Mona held my bed for me. She kept it. And if it wouldn't have been for her love and attention that she gave to me, I would probably, myself personally, be back out using, institutionalized, or dead. She's given me so much that I could never have dreamed of ever having. I got a license, you know.
Mona's no nonsense. You don't get into that program and go back to your own habits. She doesn't tolerate it, and she knows from firsthand experience what works, what doesn't work, and the most amazing thing is the model she's created. The women in the Seeds houses will not let the other women fail.
She deserves this award because she saved people's lives. And she won't admit it, you know, and she won't take any credit for anything she does. But she inspires us and gives us hope, and you know, our dreams do come true. For me, it felt like I got a future going, you know, because of Mona Lou. When I wanted to give up on everything, she wouldn't let me. And that's her determination and her willpower and her everything. And that's why I think she deserves the award, is because she's determined to make sure that things are okay.
So she is somebody who deserves amazing respect, and this award is just the tip of the iceberg of what she deserves.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. You're speaking of it. Thank you. Whew. I am honored. Oh, God. I am certainly honored to accept an award in the name of a woman who, by the way, who most of you probably know, never sleeps and puts the Energizer Bunny to shame, and who inspires me beyond imagination. I am humbled at the thought of sharing a platform with some of the greatest women leaders of my time who are in this room and at this event today. And thank you to the women I've come to know through the Seeds program who are shining examples of courage and hope and trusted me with their lives sometimes. And mostly, I am thankful for that first woman who planted seeds in me when I once lived life surviving from day to day and struggling to find a reason to live. She encouraged me and pushed me to keep on going in my darkest moments. She gave me hope and showed me that I did have a voice and that I do matter. She taught me that no matter how little food we have to eat or how many material things we think we don't have yet, we still have enough to share. And that person for me was Sarah Buell. If I can make a difference in just one woman's life or one child, then I've made a difference. I want to thank each and every one of you, and thank you so much, Marilyn. I want to be just like you when I grow up. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I please have your attention? Please welcome the honorary chair of the 2007 Sandra Day O'Connor Awards luncheon, Mrs. Carol Kyle, accompanied by Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, and our honored guest, Mrs. Laura Bush.
Thank you. If you can be seated now. It's my pleasure to be the honorary co-chair of this event this year, but also to introduce our next guest. The first thing that you notice about Sandra Day O'Connor is she cares about you. She looks you directly in the eye and says, "Tell me about your family and how are you doing?" And she really wants to know. That humility and humanity and caring is why she is here today and why the award that she will present bears her name. When she talks about her days of growing up on the Lazy Bee Cattle Ranch in eastern Arizona, it becomes clear how she came to be the enormously influential person she is today. Her appreciation of the land, hard work, real people, and the lessons of life's kind of values that come from such upbringing are reflected in her life's work and in caring for her family. She would never have achieved so many firsts, capped by her historic role as the first woman ever to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court, without the grit and determination that she still exhibits in all she undertakes. As many of you know, Justice O'Connor loves nothing more than mentoring young women, and her motto seems to be, "You can do it." What an inspiration she has been and continues to be. Historic American figure, the first woman in many things, accomplished jurist, inspirational writer and speaker, daughter of Arizona, proud and loving wife, mother and grandmother, and genuine friend. It is a privilege to present Justice Sandra Day O'Connor.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Now, come on, we have a lot to do. Don't waste it clapping for someone from Arizona. Now, this is a big event. I was thrilled when this award was named for me a good many years ago now. And all the years that I was serving on the court, I was not able to get here for this event. And I'm so happy to be here today, and happier still that our guest of honor, our award winner, our First Lady of this land, Laura Bush, would be here for this event. Now, I can relate very well to Laura Bush because she grew up in West Texas. You know, went to school there, born there, and I spent a great many years and was born in El Paso, went to school in El Paso, so we West Texans understand. We have the twang, and we have, I guess, some of that desert grit that you get there. Mrs. Bush even met her husband in West Texas. So this is a good thing that we have her here. And we are so blessed in this country to have a First Lady to whom we can look up and whom we admire. And Laura Bush is just exemplary. She has been gracious and lovely and intelligent. She's a former teacher and librarian. She's well-read. She reads everything. And she has brought that perfect background with her to the task of being First Lady. And it is a task. She's dragged hither and yon and all over the world, but she's exhibited an enormous interest wherever she's gone in what's happening to women, what's happening to children. She cares. She's been helpful in so many ways. And it brings tears to my eyes to say, welcome to Arizona, Laura Bush.
Oh,
we are thrilled.
So much. Thank you very, very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Justice. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. You can be seated. Thank you very much, Justice O'Connor, for your very, very kind introduction. I'm honored to receive this award. Can you imagine anything more thrilling than to receive an award named for Justice Sandra Day O'Connor? Most Americans know Justice O'Connor as the Arizona rancher's daughter, who became an accomplished lawyer, a devoted mother, a senior state lawmaker, and a respected judge. President Bush and I are privileged to also know her as a very good friend. We've always enjoyed our time with Justice O'Connor, from informal outings to social dinners to most recently, just last week, the 400th anniversary of the Jamestown settlement in Virginia. I remember one luncheon Sandra Day O'Connor invited me to back in 2001 when I was new in my job as a First Lady. She invited a group of friends to the Supreme Court for a lunch, and she gave us a wonderful tour of the Supreme Court building before lunch. And then when we sat down for lunch, we learned that she had cooked the entire lunch. What I learned is from that visit is that a seat on our nation's highest court is almost as coveted as a seat at Justice O'Connor's kitchen table. Talk about a superwoman. I admire Justice O'Connor for her work on behalf of women, from her days as the nation's first female state Senate majority leader to her historic appointment to the Supreme Court. Justice O'Connor has opened doors for women who would follow her and has served as a role model to women and girls across our country and really around the world. Her path was never easy. She completed high school at age 16. She graduated magna cum laude from Stanford's undergraduate program. She finished law school there in 2 years, serving on the Stanford Law Review and as a member of the school's Legal Honor Society. Justice O'Connor even graduated third in her class of 102 students. She did have some stiff competition. The first in the class that year was Chief Justice William Rehnquist. Still, no law firm wanted to hire a woman graduate, and only one firm offered Justice O'Connor a job as a legal secretary, contingent, of course, on her typing ability. Wisely, Justice O'Connor turned them down. Apparently, she had better things in mind. Since those days in the early 50s, the opportunities for women have grown enormously, in part because of Justice O'Connor's pioneering efforts. Today, people and organizations across our country are working to secure equal justice and opportunities for women. Organizations like yours, the Arizona Foundation for Women. Through your research program, the Foundation educates policymakers, community leaders, and all Americans about the challenges facing Arizona's women. Through programs like the Walk to End Domestic Violence, the Foundation helps abused women rebuild their lives with safety and dignity. And through initiatives like the Foundation Scholarship Program, you're helping Arizona girls realize the dream of a college education, and you're preparing our country's next generation of women leaders. Thank you very much for your dedication to Arizona's women. Thank you for your dedication to Arizona's women. Thanks especially to Carol Kyle, Victoria Glimcher, and Sarah Suggs-Cheek for organizing this beautiful luncheon, which supports the Foundation's work. Congratulations to all of today's honorees, and thank you very, very much for this award. Is our mic on now? It is.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Jo West, and back in 1976, before some of you were even born, I had the privilege of becoming this city's first anchor woman. And I want to thank the Arizona Foundation for Women for the gift today of having the opportunity to interview our First Lady. And we wanted to present to you that you can take with you later, Mrs. Bush, the special award that you will be able to put on your mantle or bedside or wherever.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of your bedside table, we wanted to start the interview today with a light question because you were talking about Justice O'Connor and reading, and we want to know what book is by your bedside right now, and tell us about your summer reading list.
Well, today, the book that I'm reading right now is Khaled Hosseini's new book. He was the writer that wrote The Kite Runner. I don't know if all of you have read that. I hope you do read it. But anyway, now he has a new book called 1,000 Suns, I think is the name of it. But it's about women this time. The Kite Runner was about boys and men in Afghanistan, and this is a book about women, and really pretty brutal in a lot of parts about the way women in Afghanistan were treated under the Taliban. So he's a great writer that I really like to read. He came to the National Book Festival last year, was one of our readers that the Library of Congress hosts with me, the National Book Festival. And then I have some others that I want to read over the summer. The president has read a lot of history, and he's read all these great books by David McCullough and other writers like that about very important people in our country, and I haven't. So I think I'm going to start those this summer. I think I'm going to read some of those new books about our founding fathers.
Well, Mrs. Bush, you know, Oprah has her book list. Maybe you can start yours on your website.
Well, I do. I have
I
have a book list on my website.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Let me ask you this. We want to lead into this by you telling us about the Laura Bush Foundation for American Libraries. What inspired you to start this foundation?
Well, of course, I'm a librarian, so that I'm always interested in libraries. But in 1999 and 2000, when I was traveling during the campaign, I visited a lot of schools, and I saw a lot of really poorly stocked school libraries. And of course, usually those were in the neighborhoods where children probably didn't have very many books of their own. So after George was elected, I decided I would start a foundation to give specifically to school libraries, not public libraries, but school libraries, because I think they're very important. And so we've given to, I think, well over 600 schools in the United States by now. And we were just about to disband our fundraising arm when Hurricane Katrina hit. We'd reached our goal, we'd raised the amount of money we wanted to raise, and so then the committee, the fundraisers, decided to just raise cash for cash. Whatever we can raise, we can give away. We will give away in big grants, $50,000 to $150,000, which is what it costs to stock a whole elementary school or secondary school library. So we've given to 42 schools on the Gulf Coast so far.
Wonderful.
And these are big grants, and these are really tough people that have rebuilt their schools and ready to stock their libraries. The school people are always really tough, and when you think about all of these teachers and principals and school superintendents who've had to build whole school districts at once as fast as they can, rebuild them, and Not only that, many of them live in FEMA trailers themselves because they lost everything. So that's been fun. It's been fun to go to the Gulf Coast and to see these new libraries that are totally stocked with books.
Thank you.
Arizona, by the way, a number of schools in Arizona have received grants as well, of course. We've given in every state.
Thank you so much. Well, each of you out there, if you had a chance to come up here and talk with Mrs. Bush, could tell your story of what person inspired you the most to help you enter the vocation of your choice. And we would love to hear your story about who inspired you to be a teacher.
Well, probably it was really my mother who loved to read and read to me a lot, but I loved my second grade teacher, Miss Nagy. She still lives in Midland. I still see her when I go there. And she just had that ability to make kids think they were the pet, that they were the teacher's pet. I'm sure everyone in the room thought that, but I was sure I was. And I loved her for it, and I wanted to be just like her. So I really made the decision to be an educator when I was in the second grade. Not that mature of a decision, but it was what I really wanted and what I really loved doing.
What are some of the other initiatives that you are so proud of during this wonderful time for you? And there are many months left, and what's going to be in the future?
Well, one initiative that I've worked on that I think is interesting for a group of women is I've done a lot of things with women in Afghanistan and in the Middle East. This week, I hosted a group at the White House of women from Syria, Lebanon, Palestinian women, Egypt, Morocco, a big group of women from the Middle East who are being mentored by American businesswomen that are in the same profession that these women are in. And that was very interesting and fun. There's a great program here at Thunderbird. And Barbara Barrett, actually, I think is in the room. She started this program at Thunderbird that brings Afghan women, business women, in to train them so they can go back home and succeed in their businesses. And they've had 2 classes of Afghan women that have come here and studied very hard and lived in the dorms at Thunderbird and have gone home and have been very, very successful. So those are fun issues to work on. I think I really like to have the opportunity to work with women around the world. And I've met women everywhere I go, in nearly every country we visit. I have at least one luncheon or one dinner with women from that country and women leaders. And you know what I found out? We all want the same things. We want to be educated. We want to live a peaceful life. We want to have children who are educated and healthy and safe. You know, we want to realize our dreams. And I see that everywhere.
Along those same lines, you talk to women from around the world. Well, there are also, if you've noticed, there are more women who are becoming heads of countries, which is very exciting. And what kind of policies do you think are going to change in the future with women leaders?
That's a very interesting question. I was honored to represent the United States at the inauguration of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the new president of Liberia. And I don't know if you know the history of Liberia, but Liberia was founded by freed slaves from the United States. And in fact, in the program, the inaugural program, there was a list of all the presidents of Liberia, and the first 7 or 8 were born in Kentucky or Virginia or other states in the U.S. But anyway, Liberia had been a very successful country, but had had some, in recent years, a very terrible civil war and government. And the U.S., you may not know it, but we were the ones that really stayed there. We stayed there in Liberia. We kept our embassy there. We were about one of the only countries during this time of violence and civil war that kept an embassy there, an ambassador there, with the hope of helping Liberia rebuild. And so now, fortunately, after a good, free election, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected. She'd been jailed earlier in Liberia because of the dictators that were there before, and then she'd worked for the World Bank. She'd lived in the United States. She has grandchildren who live in the United States now. But anyway, I still see her. I mean, I got to go to her inauguration, but when she comes to the United States, I have lunch with her or get to meet with her, with the president. And I see from her, the way she relates in her country is sort of as a mother. And this, of course, it's an African country and a society that values the way mothers are and how mothers take care of people. And so I think there are going to be some feminine traits, I think, in our women leaders around the world. So, and I think that's great.
Well, Mrs. Bush, I know that you don't have to worry about keeping track of frequent flyer miles, but if you could, can you imagine how many she would have? And I understand that next month you are going to yet another continent rather, and do some wonderful things in line with what you just told us.
I'm going to go to Africa at the end of next month to 4 countries in Africa. And what I usually do when I visit African countries is visit programs that are funded in some part by the people of the United States. And they might be a program like Rick Warren's Saddleback Church that has some very, very wonderful programs going on in Africa. Or they might be programs that are funded through USAID and our government. And I don't think the American people really know how generous the United States is worldwide. And many, many projects that are in treatment of AIDS, for instance, and malaria are funded and really organized by the United States, by both our government and our NGOs, as they call them, our various charities and organizations that work worldwide. So I get the opportunity to go see how successful those programs are. One that I visited before in South Africa is called Mothers to Mothers, and it is a opportunity for women to get tested when they're pregnant to see if they're HIV positive, and if they are, to immediately go on the medications that you can take to make sure your baby is HIV free when your baby's born. And then these women have jobs and they mentor the next mothers. Group. It's a really wonderful group. But anyway, some of those mothers came to the United States and they went around. They had quite a busy schedule and talked about what they were doing. And now people in the United States, in Washington and Philadelphia, are doing what they're doing, copying them. And I know that made them feel great.
We'll be following your trip with very special interest.
Let me just say one thing about the frequent flyer miles, though. Today, you would have thought that my bags would have made it. But they didn't. So, and since it's such a long flight from Washington, I'd worn very comfortable clothes that you would have thought that I thought everyone in Arizona really was very casually dressed always if I'd worn what I had. But instead, one car in the motorcade stopped at a shopping center and rushed out with this new outfit.
I guess you're not allowed to do a commercial, but I'm dying to find out what store that is. We have time for just one more question, and I'm going to put on my glasses because I want to make sure I get the statistics right because it's so exciting. The National Institutes for Health gives you, Mrs. Bush, gives you credit among women by increasing awareness among these women from 35% to 57% that heart disease is their #1 killer, and you have become their ambassador of a program called Heart Truth Campaign. We want to end our talk today because we need some advice from you. You look fabulous, and we want to know what you're doing to stay healthy and what advice you can give us, women and men, and those of us especially who have daughters. Okay, what advice would you give us?
Well, I hope that everyone in this room does know that heart disease is the leading cause of death among American men and women. I didn't know that. I was surprised when the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute called me and said, would you want to be a part of the Heart Truth Campaign to get the message out to women that heart disease is their leading cause of death. And more women than men die of heart disease every year, and part of the reason is because women think of a heart attack as a man's disease. And so even when they start to suffer the symptoms of a heart attack, they don't go directly to the emergency room. They just think, oh, I think I'll go lie down and I'm sure I'll feel better. And in fact, the symptoms that women might have are different from what men have. Women might not have the crushing chest pain that we see on television when someone has a heart attack, or that sort of symptom, and in fact could have extreme fatigue, or a pain in the jaw or the neck, or a burning sensation in the back. All things that women think, especially fatigue, well, you know, I'm busy and I'm tired. So we have gotten the message out. More women now know, which means more women are getting to the hospital faster, and numbers of heart attack victims decreased in the last year because women now know. But it wasn't just only educating women, it was also educating doctors who also thought of heart attacks as a man's disease. And I went to Kansas City for one of the very first Heart Truth events and spoke at a hospital, and a woman heard me on television that night, and she had been to her doctor 2 days before because she said she didn't feel well, but he thought she was fine and he sent her home, and she got in bed, and then she woke up and she said, you know, I'm having those symptoms that Miss Bush talked about on television today. And she woke up her husband and they rushed to the hospital, and she was having a heart attack. So she wrote me to tell me that I saved her life.
Oh.
But so then she started speaking at churches in Kansas City, all the different churches, and now she's been written by friends and people that
Yes.
she saved their life.
Yes.
So I think that's really such a great story. But obviously, we all know what it takes to be healthy. You know, we know for sure. And there, for heart disease, which is preventable, you can prevent it if you know what your blood cholesterol level is and what your blood pressure is, and treat those if they're high. You obviously, everyone knows, no smoking, get exercise, physical activity is very important, and a healthy diet. And so if you know your risk factors, then you can do some things to change your lifestyle.
And we know
that is a very, very good example for your children too.
And we know if you have time to exercise, then we have time to exercise. Well, on behalf of the Arizona Foundation for Women, we are so honored and blessed that you came today to accept this wonderful Sandra Day O'Connor Award. Carol Kyle, thank you for helping to get her here. And it's time to go. There are people waiting for you, and congratulations again.
Thanks so much. And Mary Jo, I appreciate it very much, and thank you very much for this. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you for the wonderful award. It was fun. Go this way. Thank you all. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it very much. Thanks. Thank you, Mary Jo. That was fun.
Thank you.